Hi, everybody. My name is Lynn Langmeyer, and today I'm going to read you selections about cats. And I'm starting with a poem called The Owl and the Pussycat. And it was originally written in French, I believe, and even if it wasn't, I'm going to read it to you first in French, and my French is horrible, so make sure you don't accost me and tell me how terrible it was. But I just thought that French is such a nice language that even if I mess up, hopefully it will sound good. And I'm starting The Owl and the Pussycat. Ibo et Minot allèrent à la mer dans un barque peint en jaune canari. Ils prirent du mille roues et beaucoup de sous, enrôlés dans une lettre de crédit. L'ibo contemplait les astres du ciel et chanta en grattant de sa guitare. Ô Minot chérie, ô Minot ma belle, ô Pussycat, comme tu escrais, ô Pussycat, comme tu escrais. Ô chanteur de la chatte, nos berceaux à deux pattes, votre voix est une telle élégance. Voulez-vous, chéri beau, devenir mon époux, mais qui ferait pour trouver une alliance? Ils vogueront, fous d'amour, un année et un jour, et au pays où le bon fleurette beau, un cochon de lait serait d'une forêt, une bague accrochée au museau, une bague accrochée au museau. Cochon, vieux-tu bien nous vendrais pour une reine? Tabac, le cochon, pensait-il. Dans un prérent, le machin, et le lendemain matin, le dindon sur les mots, les eunuques. Ils feront un repas de maigrette et de gras, se servant d'une colère peu commune. Et sur la plage, le nouveau ménage dansa au clair de la lune, dansa au clair de la lune. And now I'm going to read it to you in English. The owl and the pussycat went to sea in a beautiful pea-green boat. They took some honey and plenty of money wrapped up in a 5-pound note. The owl looked up to the stars above and sang to a small guitar. Oh, lovely pussy, oh, pussy, my love, what a beautiful pussy you are. What a beautiful pussy you are. Pussy said to the owl, you elegant fowl, how charmingly sweet you sing. Oh, let us be married, too long we have tarried. But what shall we do for a ring? They sailed away for a year and a day to the land where the bong tree grows. And there in a wood a piggy-wig stood, with a ring at the end of his nose, with a ring at the end of his nose. Dear pig, are you willing to sell for 1 shilling your ring? Said the piggy, I will. So they took it away and were married next day by the turkey who lives on the hill. They dined on mince and slices of quince, which they ate with a runcible spoon, and hand in hand on the edge of the sand, they danced by the light of the moon, They danced by the light of the moon. The Owl and the Pussycat by Edward Lear. Now I'm going to read to you from a book called The Cat Lover's Book of Fascinating Facts. And it is written by Ed Lucaire. And someone very thoughtful gave this to me for my birthday this year. And so whoever it is, if you're out there, thank you, didn't sign the card. So, two things I'm going to read from here. When a cat purrs, the sound does not emanate from its voice box, where its meows come from. Scientists are not sure how purrs are made, but one theory is that they are produced by a vibration of blood flowing from a vein in the chest cavity and amplified in the windpipe. Cats have a language, but little is known about it. Studies indicate that cats have a 100-word vocabulary and 13 distinct vowel sounds and 7 or 8 consonant sounds. It is known that mother cats make a sound that calls kittens back to the nest. Another sound communicates the size of the prey a cat is chasing. Cats have a larger vocabulary than dogs, according to Alphonse Léon Grimaldi, a Parisian professor. I'm sure that dog lovers and owners would argue with that. Oops. Okay. Cat breeds vary less in shape and size than dog breeds do, because cats have a less varied genetic makeup. The cat has only been selectively bred for less than 100 years, whereas dogs have been selectively bred for specific characteristics, such as hunting ability, for centuries. Dogs were domesticated 50,000 years ago versus 4,000 plus years ago for cats. The average female domestic cat weighs 6 to 10 pounds, and the average male domestic cat weighs 10 to 15 pounds. The weights of dogs vary significantly more. A St. Bernard, for example, weighs about 300 times what a little Yorkshire Terrier weighs. This is under the heading of Cats as Survivors. A stray cat named Scarlet made New York news in late March 1996 when it jeopardized its own life 5 times by repeatedly walking into a burning abandoned garage to save its 5 kittens. Almost singed to death, the cat was given the name Scarlet by the press because it was so badly burned that its oozing skin was exposed. Although Scarlet's eyes looked severely damaged, Dr. Larry Cohn, a Long Island veterinarian, felt that the cat's corneas were in sufficient shape to recover sight. This is under long-distance cats. Cats have an amazing ability to find their way home. Some of the stories sound difficult to believe, but researchers at Duke University, Dr. Joseph Rhine and Sarah Feather, have verified dozens of similar stories that cat owners have passed on through the years. It is believed that cats have a celestial navigation system similar to that of birds, primarily using the angle of sunlight, or on overcast days, the angle of polarized light. Here are a few examples of a cat's incredible homing instinct. While on vacation in Wales, London, resident Margaret Adams was devastated on learning that her cat, Samson, had disappeared. 2 years later, she saw a cat resembling Samson on her property and called his name. He sallied forth, and Mrs. Adams verified his unusual markings. It was, in fact, Samson, who had taken a leisurely 2 years to amble over 250 miles. A half-Persian cat named Sugar, who easily became carsick, was left with a neighbor in Anderson, California, when its owner, Mary, moved to Oklahoma, about 1,500 miles away. Sugar's new owner called 2 weeks later to tell Mary that the cat had disappeared. Over a year later, Sugar mysteriously appeared while Mary was doing garden work outside her new home. The two had a joyful reunion. A homesick tabby named Macavity walked from Cumbermold, the location of his new home, to his hometown near Truro, Cornwall, a distance of about 500 miles, in only 3 weeks. And according to Dr. Michael Fox, a cat named Tom traveled about 2,500 miles from St. Petersburg, Florida, to San Gabriel, California, to find its owner, who had moved. Famous cat haters. Among the following notables are among those who are known to hate or fear cats. French sonneteer Pierre de la Ronsard, who was born in 1524 and died in 1585, the court poet of Charles IX, wrote the following bitter words about cats. There is no man now living anywhere who hates cats with a deeper hate than I. I hate their eyes, their heads, the way they stare, and when I see one come, I turn and fly. The list of cat lovers is about, famous cat lovers, is about 9 or 10 pages long, so I am not going to read it to you. I'm going to tell you that the people who are cat lovers range from Rembrandt to Franklin Roosevelt to Albert Schweitzer to Elizabeth Taylor, James Taylor, Henry David Thoreau, Mark Twain, Queen Victoria, H.G. Wells, Cardinal Wolsey, and Émile Zola. So those are from the Cat Lover's book of fascinating facts. and it really is filled with fascinating facts. So one of the things I read talked about a cat named Macavity. And those of you who are Cats lovers, the musical Cats, will know that there is a cat in Cats that is also named Macavity. So I'm going to read to you now from Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats by T.S. Eliot. And the version that I have has drawings by Edward Gorey, and they are wonderful drawings. I'm sorry that I cannot easily show them to you. So I will read you first the preface. This book is respectfully dedicated to those friends who have assisted its composition by their encouragement, criticism, and suggestions, and in particular, Mr. T.E. Faber, Miss Allison Tandy, Miss Susan Walcott, Miss Susanna Morley, and the man in white, Spats. This book was written by T.S. Eliot and was copyrighted 1939. I'm going to start with a poem called The Naming of Cats. The naming of cats is a difficult matter. It isn't just one of your holiday games. You may think at first I'm as mad as a hatter when I tell you a cat must have 3 different names. First of all, there's the name that the family use daily, such as Peter, Augustus, Alonzo, or James, such as Victor or Jonathan, George or Bill Bailey, all of them sensible, everyday names. There are fancier names if you think they sound sweeter, some for the gentlemen, some for the dames, such as Plato, Admetus, Electra, Demeter, but all of them sensible everyday names. But I tell you, a cat needs a name that's particular, a name that's peculiar and more dignified. Else how can he keep up his tail perpendicular, or spread out his whiskers, or cherish his pride? Of names of this kind I can give you a quorum, such as Munkustrap, Quaxo, or Coriopat, such as Bomballerina, or else Jellilorum, names that never belong to more than one cat. But above and beyond, there's still one name left over, and that is the name that you will never guess, the name that no human research can discover, but that the cat himself knows and will never confess. When you notice a cat in profound meditation, the reason I tell you is always the same. His mind is engaged in a rapt contemplation of the thought, of the thought, of the thought of his name, of his ineffable, effable, feignable, deep and inscrutable, singular name. The next one is called the Old Gumby Cat. I have a Gumby cat in mind. Her name is Jenny Anydots. Her coat is of the tabby kind, with tiger stripes and leopard spots. All day she sits upon the stair, or on the steps, or on the mat. She sits and sits and sits and sits, and that's what makes a Gumby cat. But when the day's hustle and bustle is done, then the Gumby cat's work is but hardly begun. And when all the family's in bed and asleep, She slips down the stairs to the basement to creep. She is deeply concerned with the ways of the mice. Their behavior's not good, and their manners not nice. So when she has got them lined up on the matting, she teaches them music, crocheting, and tatting. I have a Gumby cat in mind. Her name is Jenny Anydots. Her equal would be hard to find. She likes the warm and sunny spots. All day she sits behind the hearth, or in the sun, or on my hat. She sits and sits and sits and sits, and that's what makes a Gumby cat. But when the day's hustle and bustle is done, then the Gumby's cat work is but hardly begun. As she finds that the mice will not ever keep quiet, she is sure it is due to irregular diet. And believing that nothing is done without trying, she sets straight to work with her baking and frying. She makes them a mouse cake of bread and dried peas and a beautiful fry of lean bacon and cheese. I have a Gumby cat in mind. Her name is Jelly Anydots. The curtain cord she likes to wind and tie it into sailor knots. She sits upon the windowsill or anything that's smooth and flat. She sits and sits and sits and sits, and that's what makes a Gumby cat. But when the day's hustle and bustle is done, then the Gumby cat's work is but hardly begun. She thinks that the cockroaches just need employment to prevent them from idle and wanton destroyment. So she's formed from the lot of disorderly louts a troop of well-disciplined, helpful Boy Scouts with a purpose in life and a good deed to do, and she's even created a Beatles tattoo. So for old Gumby cats, let us now give 3 cheers, on whom well-ordered households depend, it appears. This is the song of the Jellicles. Jellicle cats come out tonight. Jellicle cats come one and all. The Jellicle moon is shining bright. Jellicles come to the Jellicle ball. Jellicle cats are black and white. Jellicle cats are rather small. Jellicle cats are merry and bright and pleasant to hear when they caterwaul. Jellicle cats have cheerful faces. Jellicle cats have bright black eyes. They like to practice their airs and graces and wait for the Jellicle moon to rise. Jellicle cats develop slowly. Jellicle cats are not too big. Jellicle cats are roly-poly. They know how to dance a gavotte and a jig. Until the Jellicle moon appears, they make their toilette and take their repose. Jellicles wash behind their ears, and Jellicle cats dry between their toes. Jellicle cats are white and black. Jellicle cats are of moderate size. Jellicle cats jump like a jumping jack. Jellicle cats have moonlit eyes. They're quiet enough in the morning hours. They're quiet enough in the afternoon, reserving their terpsichorean powers to dance by the light of the Jellicle moon. Jellicle cats are black and white. Jellicle cats, I said, are small. If it happens to be a stormy night, they will practice a caper or 2 in the hall. If it happens the sun is shining bright, you would say they had nothing to do at all. They are resting and saving themselves to be right for the Jellicle moon and the Jellicle ball. Now this one is Macavity, the mystery cat. Macavity's a mystery cat. He's called the hidden paw, for he's the master criminal who can define the law. For he's the master criminal who can defy the law. He's the bafflement of Scotland Yard, the flying squad's despair, for when they reach the scene of crime, Macavity's not there. Macavity, Macavity, there's no one like Macavity. He's broken every human law. He breaks the law of gravity. His powers of levitation would make a faker stare. And when you reach the scene of crime, Macavity's not there. You may seek him in the basement, you may look up in the air, but I tell you once and once again, Macavity's not there. Macavity's a ginger cat. He's very tall and thin. You would know him if you saw him, for his eyes are sunken in. His brow is deeply lined with thought. His head is highly domed. His coat is dusty from neglect. His whiskers are uncombed. He sways his head from side to side with movements like a snake. And when you think he's fast asleep, and when you think he's half asleep, he's always wide awake. Macavity, Macavity, there's no one like Macavity, for he's a fiend in feline shape, a monster of depravity. You may meet him in a by-street, you may see him in the square, but when a crime's discovered, then Macavity's not there. He's outwardly respectable. They say he cheats at cards, and his footprints are not found in any field of Scotland Yard. And when the larder's looted, or the jewel case is rifled, or when the milk is missing, or another peak's been stifled, or the greenhouse glass is broken and the trellis past repair, aye, there's the wonder of the thing, Macavity's not there. And when the Foreign Office finds a treaty's gone astray, or the Admiralty lost some plans and drawings by the way, there may be a scrap of paper in the hall or on the stair, but it's useless to investigate. Macavity is not there. And when the loss has been disclosed, the Secret Service say, it must have been Macavity, but he's a mile away. You'll be sure to find him resting or licking of his thumbs or engaged in doing complicated long division sums. Macavity, Macavity, there's no one like Macavity. There never was a cat of such deceitfulness and suavity. He always has an alibi and one or two to spare. At whatever time the deed took place, Macavity wasn't there. And they say that all the cats whose wicked deeds are widely known, I might mention Mungo Jerry, I might mention Griddlebone, and nothing more than agents for the cat who all the time just controls their operations, the Napoleon of crime. And now I will read the final poem in this book. It's called Cat Morgan Introduces Himself. I once was a pirate what sailed the high seas, but now I've retired as commissionaire. And that's how you find me a-taking my ease and keeping the door in a Bloomsbury square. I'm partial to partridges, likewise to grouse, and I favor that Devonshire cream in a bowl. And I'm always content with a drink on the house and a bit of cold fish when I done me patrol. I ain't got much polish, me manners is gruff, but I've got a good coat and I keep myself smart. And everyone says, and I guess that's enough, You can't but like Morgan, he's got a kind heart. I got knocked about on the Barbary coast, and me voice it ain't no such mellifluous organ. But yet I can state, and I'm not one to boast, that some of the gals is dead keen on old Morgan. So if you have business with Faber, I'll give you this tip, and it's worth a lot more. You'll save yourself time, and you'll spare yourself labor, if just you make friends with the cat at the door. Signed, Morgan. The end. And that's what I have to read to you today. All about cats. Thank you.